Hi everyone, my name is Julie Beeton. I am a Canadian immigration lawyer and I'm also the managing director of Beeton & Co. And we're a company based in the UAE that helps families and professionals immigrate to Canada, and as well we also help students gain admission to Canadian universities and colleges. So today I'm really looking forward to this Facebook Live event. It's the first time we've done a Facebook Live event that is specific to one practice of one area, one industry. And so today we're going to be focusing on tech workers and engineers and jobs in Canada for them. So before I get started, I just wanted to talk a little bit about these industries in Canada. So they're doing really well, they're booming industries. And as a result, the Canadian government has developed these new immigration programs to recruit more people in the tech field and engineers to Canada. So the tech field right now in Canada, there's 71,000 companies in Canada right now in the tech industry. And last year they generated $117 billion towards the GDP in Canada. So it's a huge industry in Canada right now. And the really interesting statistic is that 2/3 of these companies are actually small operations with fewer than 4 employees. So there's huge room for growth as well in the tech industry. For the engineers, the rebounding oil and gas industry in Canada, as well as the agricultural industry and the natural gases industry, or the natural resources industry, is really pushing forward the need for engineers in Canada as well. And actually, before we started the presentation, I went on to Indeed.com, which is INDEED.com, which is a job site in Canada, and checked for the number of engineering jobs listed in Saskatchewan. And Saskatchewan is one of the provinces in Canada, and they're looking for a number of engineers. And just on that one job site, there was 480 positions for engineers listed. So you can see that there's a large need for engineers in Canada as well. So before I get started to talking about all of these new programs, I just wanted to be very clear that the programs that we're talking about today, you do not need a job offer for. And you're probably wondering why we'd be focusing on programs that you do not need a job offer for, when obviously most people that go to Canada would prefer to go with a job offer in hand. And the reason for this is that people outside of Canada find it difficult to find a job in Canada. And we get lots of questions from this, from clients and other people saying, why am I finding it difficult to find a job in Canada? One of the biggest reasons for that is that the Canadian employers need to get approval from the Canadian government in order to hire a non-Canadian for any particular role. To get this approval, it usually takes about 12 months to get that approval. So a lot of companies don't know ahead of time that they have a position available in 12 months. As well, there's fees associated in doing it. And on top of that, obviously employers are not getting a chance to meet candidates face to face. So all of these contribute to the fact that they prefer to hire somebody that is already in Canada or is on their way to Canada. So what I usually suggest to people to do is a multi-prong attack for immigration. So what this means is your first step is look for the job. And the way we actually, because we get a lot of questions about this, we developed an ebook. It's on our website if you go to the products page. So our website is www.beetonco.com. Go to the products page and there's an ebook called Finding Employment in Canada. And this is basically a starting point to look for jobs in Canada. And what we've included is reputable recruiters that we know that I know from my time in Canada, as well as job databases and job sites in Canada, as well as some resume writing tips that are specific to the Canadian job market. So prong one, look for that Canadian job, see what you can find. Obviously, if you can get that job, that's the best and easiest way to get to Canada. As a backup, and plan B as your second prong is to apply for immigration to one of these programs, these new programs that do not need job offers. And that way, if you don't get the job, you have another way to get to Canada as well. And then once you are applying for these programs that do not need the job offer, then about 3 or 4 months before you know your permanent residency status, your permanent residency is coming through, that's when you ramp up your job search in Canada. And at that point, Canadian employers are much more likely to give you a job offer or hold a position for you because they know you're about to be a permanent resident and they don't need to have those approvals from the Canadian government to hire you. So that's, I'd say, the three-prong attack. Look for the job, apply to the programs that you do not need a job offer for, and then the third prong is to look about 3 or 4 months before you get your permanent residency, really ramp up your search in Canada. So before we start talking about these new programs, I just wanted to talk a little bit about the immigration system in Canada, so you have a little bit of a background. So the express entry system, which you may have heard of, is how the Canadian government organizes all of the applications that come into it for immigration. So think of that as the main system. This system is a points-based system. So what that means is the Canadian government gives you points for factors such as your age, your work experience, your language skills, and your education. So they look at those factors, you get points for each of those factors, and then they give you a score. So that score determines which immigration programs you're eligible for. The most popular immigration program in Canada is called the Federal Skilled Worker Program. And last year, approximately 170,000 people immigrated just through that program. For this program, the cutoff that you need to have for your Canadian immigration score is 435 right now. In the last few months, that minimum score was as low as 413. It changes every 3 to 4 weeks. So if you're in that range between 413, say, to 435 or above, then you're looking at the federal system. If you're below that, that's when you look at the provincial programs and these new programs that have created for engineers and for tech workers. So those programs are under the provincial programs. And what these provincial programs are, every province in Canada has 5 or 6 different immigration programs where they can invite somebody specifically to come to their province. So your intention in these programs must be to live in the province that selects you. So these new programs that the Canadian government has created are under these provincial programs. So let's get into these new programs, because I'm sure that's what you're most interested in. So let's start with Ontario. So the Ontario Provincial Program generally requires you to have a score of 400 to apply. But because they're specifically looking for people with tech experience, they've said if you have certain tech experience, you do not need to have the 400 minimum, and you can apply anyway. And they have outlined the jobs that they are looking for with people to have that work experience. So I'm going to read out the jobs that they have set out. And as well, if you sign up for our newsletter, tomorrow we're going to send out a newsletter with all of these jobs listed, so it's a bit clearer, because me just reading them out probably isn't the best way for you to be able to take in all the information. So again, sign up for the newsletter and you'll get all of this information tomorrow. So the jobs that they're looking for in Ontario: telecommunication carriers managers, computer and information systems managers, electrical and electronic engineers, computer engineers, information systems analysts and consultants, database analysts and data administrators, software engineers and designers, computer programmers and interactive media developers, web designers and developers, electrical and electronics engineering technologists and technicians, computer network technicians, user support technicians, systems testing technicians, broadcast technicians, and graphic designers and illustrators. So again, that's a lot to take in, so sign up to the newsletter and you'll get all this information tomorrow. But that is the list that Ontario is specifically looking for. They've recently put this program on hold because it received so many applications. And how these provincial programs work is that they open and close at different times during the year to control the number of people that apply and are accepted. So what you need to do is you need to be in the express entry system before these programs open again, so that you're ready to apply as soon as they open. So to get into the express entry system, you need to complete the express entry profile and get into the express entry pool. If you need some assistance in doing the express entry profile and getting into the express entry system, we have something called the Reduced Fee PNP Starter Pack, which basically means a number of your fees are deferred until you get accepted by the Ontario government, and it gets you into the express entry system very quickly. So that's something to consider. So that's Ontario, and that's the list. So mostly it's tech workers, some engineers, but mostly experience in tech. So then in New Brunswick is on the east coast of Canada. Ontario is sort of in the center and is the industrial capital. New Brunswick is on the east coast. Beautiful, beautiful province. They have a different system of eligibility to get accepted to their programs, and usually you need to get 67 out of 100 to be eligible to apply to New Brunswick. However, they are specifically looking for applicants who have attended an information session on New Brunswick in the previous 24 months, and who has one of the priority occupations listed below. So basically what this means, the New Brunswick government goes around to various cities and countries around the world and does information sessions. If you've attended one of those sessions in the last 2 years and you have the work experience of information systems analyst and consultant, computer network technician, software engineer and designer, database analyst and data administrator, computer programmers and interactive media developers, then it's time for you to apply to New Brunswick. If you're interested in these information sessions for New Brunswick, you can just Google New Brunswick information sessions and you'll get lots of information about that. The one thing that we're really excited to talk about is that in Dubai, on October 22nd, 23rd, and 24th, the New Brunswick government is actually sponsoring a recruitment drive in Dubai. They are looking for people. If you have this work experience, this is what they're looking for. Software developer, IT security analyst, system architect, system analyst, business intelligence and analytics, and JD Edwards skills. So if you have that work experience and you're in Dubai or around this region and you're interested in attending this event, basically it's Canadian companies coming to a New Brunswick sponsored recruitment session in Dubai. To register for this, you can go to Living in NB. Living, so Living in NB, so New Brunswick, nb.ca. Again, all of this information will be in the newsletter because I think that's the best way to send it out. So just sign up for that and you'll get all the information. So that's October 22nd, 23rd, and 24th in Dubai. As well, there's going to be sessions around that time in Egypt, so in Cairo, and also in Jordan. So if you have friends or family that are in those regions, or you're in those regions, then again, go to that website. That is how you register. Once you're registered and selected, then they will tell you the location of where you need to be and the timing and everything and all the requirements that you have to have. But again, so the software developer and some IT systems experience. Okay, so moving along, the next program that I wanted to talk about, and this one's more specific to engineers. This is in Saskatchewan. So Saskatchewan's more towards sort of the center west of Canada, more of an agricultural, lots of agriculture, a little bit of oil and gas, natural resources. That's this province. It's a very popular immigration program because it's a bit easier to get into than a number of the other programs in Canada. And it's a bit of a different system and a different point system, but you need to have 60 out of 100 to pass to be eligible for their programs. However, they also have a list of in-demand jobs, which means that if you have work experience in these in-demand jobs, then they want you to apply for immigration there. So these are, and again, it's mostly for engineers. So engineering managers, civil engineers, mechanical engineers, electrical and electronics engineers, industrial and manufacturing engineers, computer engineers, software engineers and designers, web designers and developers. So again, all this information will be in the newsletter, so that's probably the best way to get it. But so Saskatchewan, and mostly for engineering jobs. So those I think are the main programs. So you've got, just to recap, You've got Ontario, and they're looking for a lot of tech workers. And you've got New Brunswick, which are looking for certain tech jobs that they need. Plus, there's also the recruitment session in Dubai and in Egypt and Jordan. And then you've also got Saskatchewan, who's looking for engineers and some tech workers. If you do the multi-prong attack for immigration, so you apply for a job, and you also use these new programs as well that do not need a job offer, but you do end up with a job. There's also some really excellent developments as well for tech workers in this space. So there's a new program in Canada where visas are being processed in 2 weeks, which is amazing. Like usually it takes 12 months, so 2 weeks is just incredible. And the program is called the Global Talent Stream. And so the Canadian employer must be signed up for this. So you need to check with the Canadian employer that you've been talking to if they're registered for this. And they need to be recruiting people specifically for these jobs. So again, mostly tech and some engineers. So computer and information systems managers, computer engineers, information systems analysts and consultants, database analysts and data administrators, software engineers and designers, computer programmers and interactive media developers, web designers and developers, electronical and electronics engineering technologists and technicians, information system testing technicians. So again, just to go over that, so this is if you do get a job, you want to get your visa within 2 weeks, you're looking at the Global Talent Stream. And there, you need to be, your company in Canada that's recruiting you needs to be part of this this program, and it needs to be in one of these professions. So I also wanted to talk to you a little bit today about licensing. So this is really important, especially for engineers, but also there's a lot of, say, computer engineers or designers that also need licensing. So you need to be licensed in order to actually work in Canada in these jobs. So this is something you need to get onto very quickly because sometimes it can take up to 1 year to get your licensing. So it's something to really start working on quickly. So I just wanted to give you some general information about this. So software engineers and designers, generally, they are going to need a candidate membership from the Canadian Association of Information Technology Professionals, which is, I think they call it CIPS, C-I-P-S is the acronym. So you would need to go to the Canadian Association of Information Technology Professionals, go on their website and look at the licensing requirements. Generally, you need to have a 3 or 4 year university degree in computer science, MIS, BTM, or software engineering, or you need to have a college degree in computer programming, which is either a 2 or 3 year degree in order to get this licensing. So again, that's for software engineers and designers. And then for engineers, I thought I would focus on Saskatchewan because most of the programs that we talked about for engineers are in Saskatchewan. So to get your licensing requirements in Canada, you need to get your documentation from the Association of Professional Engineers and Geologists of Saskatchewan, APEGS, it's a mouthful. Association of Professional Engineers and Geologists of Saskatchewan, and you need to show that you are designated as an engineer in training. So to get this engineer in training status, they look at your degree and your schooling. So you would need to get your WES, your World Education Services report done to show that your degree is equivalent to a Canadian degree. So that's something that you would need to start. But go to the Association of Professional Engineers and Geologists of Saskatchewan website, and you'll get all the information about licensing there. So in summary, there are many ways right now for tech and engineers to get to Canada and to immigrate to Canada. If you want to start the process, you can go to our website. We have a free assessment that you can take that gives you your Canadian immigration score. It's called your CRS score. This will determine whether you take the federal path or you're looking at the provincial programs and these programs which are specific for tech and engineer workers. You can also email us at info@beetonco.com as well. If you're interested in seeing the list of all the jobs that I mentioned today, instead of me just reading them out, again, sign up for the newsletter. We'll send it all out tomorrow. And lastly, if you do want to start your job search, try our ebook. We've had a really amazing response from it. So finding a job in Canada, just go to the products page of our website, and you'll see in it we've included a list of reputable recruiters that we know. I know from our time there, they're international, well-known, recognized recruiters, so you don't have any fear of going with someone that's not reputable. National databases of jobs, and also tips on resume writing that are specific to the Canadian market. So people have said they found it really helpful. So again, finding job in Canada on the products page. So I hope that is helpful, and I hope that I get a chance to meet or speak to you soon, and stay in touch. Thanks.